million question, really. What do you think this program is worth?
Well, I can tell you, my husband said it's priceless. There's not a cost on your health. To think about the cost that I have paid in the last 10 years of having RA in doctor visits and ER visits and medication. So when you weigh that, it's really not that expensive. You're still going to spend more to be sick.
Christy, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Christy Booth. I live in the South. I'm actually from Louisiana. I have 2 daughters and a wonderful husband, and I've been a registered nurse for 24 years.
Okay, so you're in the healthcare industry, and yet you yourself were dealing with a long list of health problems. Talk to me about what was going on.
Well, I had spent quite a few years trying to get some answers for all of my health issues. And through traditional medicine, I really didn't get any of those answers. Typically, I was told, you're just aging, things are going to change, things are going to worsen. So I kept trying to seek out answers on my own, researching, trying different supplements, and just never really got those answers.
So you're talking about answers for why you were dealing with several diagnoses. Talk to me about what some of those diagnoses were.
So I was originally diagnosed with interstitial cystitis about 17 years ago. Most profound diagnosis for me physically was rheumatoid arthritis, which was about 10 years ago. I also have Sjogren's, which was about 8 years ago. Hashimoto's, which was again probably 7 or 8 years ago. So all of those diagnoses just kept building on each other.
I'm getting any answers for why. Why am I accumulating more and more health problems? And for those people who don't know what interstitial cystitis is, we're talking about very painful burning and pain when you urinate, right? So this is something that no one wants to deal with. And I think you were telling me this was happening to you with flares monthly.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so you're wondering, okay, what's the connection here? Why am I accumulating all of these health problems? And your doctors weren't putting it together that actually all of this had underlying autoimmune components to it. And that's not something that you had probably discovered until you joined the program.
No, not at all. Never had those dots connected. And my question had always been throughout my health journey, the whys, why do I feel this way? Why do I continue to add diagnosis to my already long list of diagnoses? And just never got an answer for that.
Because if you can understand the why, then you can understand why it's happening and how to stop it, most importantly, right? And that's what you were going for.
Right, right.
So I'm curious to hear, what was Christy's life like? What was it like with your pain on a scale of 1 to 10 and some of your other symptoms that you were having to deal with?
It was not pretty. I had actually, prior to joining the program, contemplated having to stop working full time. The fatigue that I experienced daily just did not allow for me to be able to give everything to my work daily. And then I had no energy left in the evenings for my family, for anything that I would want to do normally. I just physically could not keep up.
And tell me about your family.
So I do have 2 daughters. They are grown, and one of those 2 herself has an autoimmune diagnosis. So that was another reason that I was really drawn to the program, because I don't want my children to end up in the same boat as me. We spend a great deal of time together as a family. We love to travel. We love to spend time outdoors. And that's just been so limited for the last few years.
So I'm curious, how did you find this program? And did you have any reservations when you found the Transform program?
Originally, I found the program, believe it or not, on TikTok. I saw a video with Dr. Maggie on TikTok, and I had kind of, for the last year, been looking for something in the functional medicine world or genre, but had never seen anyone talk about all the components that she talked about. And so I just reached out because I felt like I didn't have any other options at this point.
Right. And when you're talking about all the components, you're probably talking about the different pillars that she talks about, the five pillars, and all of the diagnoses that you had. Boy, did they hit on each of those pillars, everything from hormones to digestion, all of it across the board. Did you have any reservations about joining though once you found it?
I did. You know, when you struggle with a chronic illness and you've been to so many doctors, you kind of start to lose hope at really being able to feel better again. And so that sense of hopelessness kind of carried over a little bit, or the sense of, you know, watching the videos and watching people who had had so much improvement. Could this really work for me too? And then the cost, honestly, you know, we don't, as moms and wives, we don't tend to do great things for ourselves. We tend to take care of our family, our jobs, our spouses, and we kind of put ourselves last. And I just really had reached a point in my health that I had to put myself first.
Well, I'm so glad you did. How far out of the program are you now?
So I finished last week. I finished week 10. So I'm 11 weeks.
But you just graduated. So, you know, wherever it is you are right now, it's only going to continue to get better and better because this is launching you into a year of autoimmune transformation. So, I'm curious, where did you say your pain was before on a scale of 1 to 10?
Daily, I was probably a 7.
7. And where
Mhm.
are you now?
Usually around a 2.
I mean, what must that be like for you? Did you even imagine it could be this good?
No, no. And the clarity that I now have, the brain fog that has just completely lifted. When I started the program, I struggled so hard with the educational components, being able to think clearly. I would have to watch some of the videos a couple of times because I was just struggling so hard to think clearly and so fatigued. And it is not gone, but I would say it's already 75% better.
And you know, that's not uncommon. And learning in this group environment, you may have actually seen it with others as well. So many people come into the program with just debilitating brain fog. It's like you feel like you're trying to get out of something that's so thick and you just can't see the end of the tunnel. You can't see the light. But then as the weeks go on, everything starts to click. And then you can see the people who are just starting at the program and you can say, wow, they're where I was. And luckily for them too, I'm sure you saw improvements from others within the community that you were going through the program with as well.
Absolutely. My pod, my group of journey travelers, as I like to call them, it was the same for us. Each one of us experienced it at different time frames. So the ones of us that were fortunate enough to early on start seeing improvement were able to encourage everyone else that it's coming for you. You know, you just give it a little time, keep working hard at it, you know. I don't think there was anybody in my group of pod folks that didn't have some improvement. And more than half of us had pretty astounding improvements, whether it be pain or brain fog or, you know, whatever symptom that they were actually struggling with, they saw improvement in.
So let's get right to it. I don't want to waste any more time. People want to know, how did this happen for you? What was the game changer or game changers that led to such dramatic turnaround in your quality of life?
Knowledge. The knowledge is the basis, but learning the 5 pillars, addressing those specific needs that your body has as someone who has autoimmune disorders that are not typically discussed or even known about in typical doctor's office visits. So addressing my deficiencies in vitamins with supplementation, addressing my blood sugar that was completely out of whack because I was typically fasting.
So
You
many
know,
people make that mistake as well. We just did a
yes.
whole live about this too, about blood sugar mastery. And so many people have false beliefs when it comes to the fact that maybe they thought their blood sugar was balanced. But what did you learn in the program about your blood sugar?
Oh, I was so far out of whack. And I was, you know, just starving my body and telling it to hold on to things because we didn't have what we needed, you know. So, but it didn't know when it was going to get its next meal and it couldn't properly keep me at a level that I needed to be. I struggled with hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, just from not eating for hours and hours and hours daily.
Right. And it makes such a difference. You feel so much better once you do get that in balance and you learned all about it. Like you said, you got that knowledge in the program. I imagine you also had some interesting results with your hormone testing.
Absolutely. So prior to the program, probably the last 2 years, I had moved into that age of time where I'm in a perimenopause. So I knew that my hormones had to play some kind of key in a portion of how I was feeling with mood disorder, just extremely fluctuating moods and night sweats and interrupting my sleep, all of those things. So, yes, the hormones played a big deal for me. My hormones were that of an 80-year-old lady. And I had asked my doctor previously about it, and he said, it's just part of getting older, you know? So,
But how frustrating is that for you to be begging a doctor, hey, I know something is off, but not getting the help that you need? I mean, what was that frustration like?
extremely frustrating. And again, just leading to such a feeling of helplessness and just feeling like no one really cares about my health except for me. So that was another thing that made me finally take this step with the program, because it's ultimately up to me to gain the knowledge and to get the answers and to continue forward in mastering my own health.
Well, and now you have a master's degree in your health and you know exactly what to do and what your body needs going forward. I'm curious, I saw that you had an interesting encounter with losing weight as well during this program. Tell me about that.
Of course, with perimenopause, we tend to hold on to weight, especially around our middle. So I hadn't been actually specifically trying, but from balancing my blood sugar and the beginning journey of balancing my hormones, as an added result, I've experienced, I want to say I'm at about 12 pounds of weight loss now with just changing my diet. I haven't really changed exercise, anything. Diet, hormones, all of that has played an integral part. My skin is so improved, which I wasn't even looking for, but people outside my home notice now, wow, your skin looks great.
Just the
Um,
fact that it's glowing more, or were you having issues with acne or what?
my skin is glowing, and hydration is such a key component. Doing the water challenge at the beginning of the program, I learned quickly how dehydrated I was daily. So I've maintained hitting those goals every day for my hydration, which I think is truly key as well.
Well, something else very fascinating that I saw that you were able to accomplish is you actually got off your PPI, your proton pump inhibitor, that was helping you, I imagine, with reflux issues. Tell me about that, because it is very, very challenging for people to get off PPIs, especially after being on them for years. Were you on yours for a long time?
I would say around 15 years, which is terrible for you. But I always thought wrongly that I had high stomach acid. And a lot of the medications I had been on previously for my RA had really caused a lot of gastrointestinal issues for me. So I was on an assortment of medications to help my stomach daily. And with the help of digestive enzymes and a really good probiotic regimen, I have been completely off of those PPIs for 4 weeks and have not had one day of heartburn. So for me, it's just an astounding, even my family has noticed, Mom, I cannot believe you're not complaining of your stomach anymore. After every meal, I would usually complain, oh, my stomach, I just feel so bad. And not in 4 weeks have I had that.
Well, and also you're stopping the attack that those PPIs, as you referenced, you alluded to, they can do long-term damage if you're on them. You're meant to be on them for a short period of time. No one is meant to be on these medications for decades plus. I imagine you're sleeping better.
Absolutely. It's easier to fall asleep now with my hormones addressed. And with my blood sugar balance, I'm staying asleep throughout the night. I wake up feeling rested, which I have not in years. I had reached a point where I was needing at least 9 hours of sleep a night, and I still wasn't feeling rested. Now my body naturally wakes me up, which it has not done in years. And when I wake up, I feel as if I rested the 6 to 8 hours that I slept, and I'm ready to face another day, which is huge. Each hurdle that I have cleared with the help of this program just continues to astound me.
Well, and I'm curious, what kind of real world things could you not do before that you're able to do now that you're feeling so much better?
Be an active part in life around me. Working full time, I would come home in the evening so drained that I couldn't make any plans. I couldn't make plans for even the weekend because I didn't know how I was going to be feeling. Or I would have the need to rest for the weekend from having been so busy with work throughout the week. So now I'm able to make those plans again, spend time with the people that matter to me, my family, my friends, and not feel so drained or tired in doing that. Physically, being able to go out and just play in my flower beds, where I couldn't do that for a long time. It's a lot of fun. Life is getting fun again.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering what emotionally that feels like for you too. I mean, you are a woman who has so much life in you, but you were contemplating retiring. You weren't able to do the things with your children that you wanted to do, hang out with your friends, garden. What was that like emotionally for you?
It's a struggle. Having a chronic illness, it tends to lend itself toward depression anyway, although I've always been an optimistic person. It's also fraught with guilt because you feel so guilty that you have to say no, or that you can't do the things that your family's asking. Come do this with us. Let's go spend the day on the boat, or all of those things. And you just don't feel like the person that you used to be. And it leads again to that feeling of hopelessness, which has truly left me. It had taken my hope and it had taken my confidence,
Mm.
and both of those are returning. I feel like I have such clarity of thought now. Um, for my job, it's really important that I give 100% of my brain and my abilities to help other people. I've spent my life dedicated to helping other people, and to feel like I'm not giving that 100% because I feel so poorly was something I really struggled with. And so knowing that when I'm giving my all, I'm truly giving my all, it makes a huge difference for me every day.
And what has been the impact, especially on your daughter, who you said also has autoimmune issues?
Again, the knowledge to be able to know that I can share everything that I have learned. She is gluten-free now. She is taking care of the supplementation that she herself was lacking in. We're looking at her hormones, which I had never even thought to do because of her age. And now I know better. So I think that over time, we're going to see the same kind of improvement for her that I've experienced. And as a mom, that is worth everything.
You're changing her life now before it has to get as bad as some of the symptoms that you experienced. Hopefully you can turn it around for her much sooner. So with all that said, I know cost was a factor that you were contemplating at first. You mentioned that, but I'm just curious, what do you think? This is the $1 million question, really. What do you think this program is worth?
Well, I can tell you, my husband said it's priceless. He told me when we first spoke about the program, if you want to do it, do it. There's not a cost on your health. For me, realistically, it made tons of sense to think about the cost that I have paid in the last 10 years of having RA in doctor visits and ER visits and medication and all those things, and what it would look like the rest of my life and how much that would cost. So when you weigh that, it's really not that expensive. You're still going to spend more to be sick.
Yeah, not that expensive. In fact, you can't afford not to do it, is what it's sounding like. I mean, you were
Yes.
contemplating retiring and you weren't able to be there for your husband or your children or your friends. And now you're an active participant in your life.
Yes. Yes.
Like your husband said, you can't put a price on that. So I'm curious, what was your favorite thing about going through this program?
Well, I am a very inquisitive person who loves to learn. So the knowledge that Dr. Maggie has equipped us with, that she has shared, that myself, having been in the medical profession for 24 years, had never even heard of, just was astounding to me. And I just soaked every bit of that in. And I'm still finding even more stuff in watching some of the videos and the bonus videos and modules.
So, do you think back to what life was like for Christy a couple months ago? And, there are other people out there who are dealing with the same issues that you're dealing with. You think about those people who are where you were a few months ago. I wonder what you would say to them if they are maybe watching this video and wondering, I wonder if that could work for me as well. What would you say to somebody?
Absolutely. I was in that position. I wondered too, will this work for me? Will this finally be an answer for me to have my life back? And it absolutely can.
Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention?
The way that the program is set up, being in a pod with people who are starting this program with you was really, really a great program asset, because you have that support group. You have folks who maybe got something out of the material that you missed, who bring that to you. And that carries on even after you leave the program. We still have, and I will meet with those folks this evening. We still talk weekly to see how we're doing, to discuss more recipes that we're learning, or how we're continuing to improve even after having left our 10 weeks. So it's truly, truly an asset to have that.
Was that something you were expecting? I'm just curious because, some people, when they're first thinking about doing this program, they can be unsure of that community group aspect. Why do I want to learn with all these other people? Maybe I just want one-on-one help. So was that unexpected for you that you liked that so much?
Yes, because I tend to be a person who kind of learns on their own, not super outspoken unless I need to be. And so, and with the brain fog too, it was like a struggle at the beginning to really participate. But as the weeks progressed, more and more people, even extremely introverted people, I think really found it to be valuable to have people to bounce questions off of, have the support of Jamie leading our pod, who had a lot of answers that we didn't have. I just can't say enough about the value of that portion.
And I'm just going to ask, because I like hearing the answer to this, what did you think about working with Dr. Maggie? What was that like?
Dr. Maggie is a wealth of knowledge, her own life experience. She's been right where we're at. And she has filled a need that so many people so desperately need. It's just been a pleasure. She's tough. Yes, she's tough, but she's also so caring and just so encouraging that you can take these keys and the 5 pillars and continue forward, being your own advocate and being in charge of your own health.
Well, you're quite the proof of it. You've been dealing with these health issues for decades, some of them, and you seem like a whole new woman. So congratulations. So happy for you. And thank you for being so generous with your time today.
Thank you so much.
We'll see if Dr. Maggie has anything else she wants to ask.
Oh my God. You're like trying to give me the ugly cry lady.
Oh
my God. That was so beautiful.
Dr. Maggie, I've already ugly cried, so I didn't need to do it today, but there was a couple of times where I could, because everything is true. Like, you are literally a godsend to so many people who are
Christy.
like me and struggling so bad. And I had so many doctors who would say, you don't need to know the why. We don't know the why. Quit asking why. And I refuse. Like with my daughter who has fibro, I'm like, there's got to be a reason my child is in pain. I'm not going to accept that there's not a reason.
Well, Christy, you and I work in healthcare, and I feel like so much of our healthcare dollars, time, and effort and education is around just getting someone a diagnosis. And the problem is 95% of autoimmune diseases with our current technology can't even be diagnosed. So then what are we going to do? Right? Put everybody through $1 million workup of something we can't even find, Or are we going to actually focus on what's causing this problem? Who cares what the hell the diagnosis is? Why don't we just end what's feeding it in the first place?
Exactly. But nobody thinks like you. Nobody thinks like you.
It's funny when I say that and my colleagues hear me say that, I always say, I don't give a rat's ass what your diagnosis is. I really don't. Because the fact is, so many people with autoimmunity don't even have a diagnosis. And even if we're lucky enough to have a diagnosis, I have Hashimoto's, but I have symptoms of mixed connective tissue disorder, fibromyalgia, neuropathy, chronic regional pain syndrome, TMJ, interstitial cystitis. Like, how many things do we need? And do I need a diagnosis for each one of those to be like, now I have an autoimmune issue. Now then I'll have a plan.
And here's a medication that will help with your symptoms. But
There's 10 of them.
Yeah. And it just doesn't get to the, like me being on PPIs for 15 years. Here, take these pills for your stomach. I love my rheumatologist. We have a great working relationship, but this man never said the drug you're on is going to deplete your B12. I mean, never. And I'm specifically on a drug that depletes my B12.
Well,
They're
not trained in that. They're not trained in that.
No. So you know what I do? I go to my appointment and I tell him about himself. I'm like, you need to start looking at your people's B12s because.
Well, see, now you know more than your doctor. That's the thing.
And is he open?
I have to approach it in a certain way.
I agree.
Because he's not greatly open. Years ago, I spoke to him about my diet because I had already started down the path of being gluten-free. And he said, oh, there are no studies that say that diet affects autoimmune disorders.
That's bullshit. That's not true. And I tell you right now, he hasn't looked at one study in his life.
Exactly.
That's not true.
I know. So you know what I did? I went and found the studies.
I know. Why do us RNs and doctors have to do this to our endocrinologists or rheumatologists? We don't have to. Grown ass women that we are and adults that we are, we don't need to convince our doctors of this shit just because they didn't have time to look at it. And then they tell us with a blanket statement that it doesn't matter and there's no literature. They've never looked at a literature day in their life. Because how long did it take you to find it on Google? 10 minutes?
Right.
Thank you very much.
Boom.
It's been such a battle, but when there are not words to thank you because I literally feel like I have my life back. I literally feel like I have my life back.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I was able to jump in and hear this.
I know. That was so wonderful. Christy, so happy for you. And thank you so much for sharing that today. I know it's going to help somebody else, probably multiple people.
Thank you.